Thank you for joining us today on Connect and Collaborate, where we come together each day to introduce you to our network of business and community leaders and to discuss the important issues that impact business in Colorado and the region. And today we are connecting with GlobalMindED. I'm so glad to have Carol Carter with us. She's the founder and executive of GlobalMindED. And today, Carol, first, welcome. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you. It's so great to be back.
And today we're going to talk about producing a workforce-ready graduates, right?
That's right. That's right.
What do we focus on specifically? I mean, and it can't be specific. There's probably a lot to encompass.
There's a lot to encompass, but one of the reasons this is such an important topic is because the Gallup research has shown that among half of our graduates today, they're either underemployed or they might be unemployed. Mm-hmm. Many of them didn't get valuable experiences while they were in college to be able to really add value to the world of work. So with GlobalMindED, we are all about closing the equity gap through education, entrepreneurship, and employment through the experiences that can really show students who they are, show them what kinds of things they can do to really be purposeful and add value in the world of work. And we really believe strongly that all students need that, but especially first generation to college students need those opportunities that some of them don't have through the networks that upper middle class people might have through their families and their
those different connections
clubs or whatever.
Well, a lot of times that's what we say that, or I've heard so many people say that a lot of times students have the only ideas of what possible careers there are from their like family, aunts and uncles, and maybe some neighbors. And if they haven't had a broader experience than that,
they don't know what's out there. And that's why it's really great right now. The state and Stephanie Vec and the Talent Found folks are doing a lot to really illuminate the career pathways. Mm-hmm. And that is really helpful so that counselors and teachers and parents and the students themselves know the kinds of things that are available. But then students still have to get to know themselves, their passions, and their interests. Because even if you know all the pathways that are available out there, you can't make really good choices unless you know the kinds of things that you would be well suited for, or you just simply go try them. And I know both of my internships in college, I decided I didn't want to go into either of those fields. I didn't want to become a lawyer. Yeah, and one was in Washington, D.C., the other was working for actually a nonprofit in New York City, but it was called the Academy for Educational Development. And it was so slow moving. I didn't realize that there were tons of different kinds of nonprofits. And I thought, wow, I just can't work for a nonprofit. It's too slow moving.
Oh, right. But that was one example.
That was just one example. Mm-hmm. But I was too naive to know that there are thousands or millions of nonprofits. Well,
and that's true.
They're all different.
No. Yeah. You think, well, here's my example. So that must be the fact.
Yeah. So part of what we want to do is work with the incredible employers that are part of the Colorado Business Roundtable community, and Colorado Business Roundtable is one of our key partners in this, to work with students to be able to give them valuable internships while they're in college. And a lot of the different people in high school right now in Colorado are getting some of that exposure through the apprenticeship programs, which is also really tremendous for high school students. So we are delighted today. We have a couple of our interns, and one of the people who's our employee here, freelance. We're going to share part of his story. And we're going to finally hear also from Gail Dindiger, who's also first generation to college. But for now, we want to introduce El Shaddai, who is one of our interns, and she is taking a gap semester. She is a first-generation to college student from University of Southern California. And welcome to the show, and tell us a little bit about your path and how you decided to carve out this experience for yourself.
Definitely. I'm honored to be on your show today, guys. Thank you so much for having us. It's been great, honestly. Taking this time off from school has really just allowed me the opportunity to take a step back from the stress of it all and the hustle and bustle of, today's educational system, to kind of really get my feet wet in my interests, really take on internship opportunities and just network and meet with people who are there, excited and ready to help first generation students like me. And I'm proud of myself for doing this.
I'm proud of you for knowing that you should do it. And walk us through, when you were a freshman and what insight you had as a sophomore to say, gosh, I want to get some real world experience.
And this is freshman and sophomore in college, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm from Denver originally, and when I moved out to Los Angeles, it was a big change. there's a lot of excitement, but there's a lot of overwhelm at the same time. And I think just being a very resourceful student, I tried to make the best of all the resources on my campus.
Yeah.
But even when you're in that position, it's easy to get overwhelmed even then, even though you're excited and passionate about trying to use these resources. There's so much out there. And I think I got to a point sophomore year where, I was very satisfied with the amazing education I was receiving, but I didn't feel like I really had a grasp on what it was that I was actually trying to achieve. I think when you're in high school, okay, I have to graduate, and then I have to get, a scholarship, hopefully, and then I have to get accepted. Like, you have things kind of planned out. When you're in university, it's a very different story. You don't really have that compass. You don't have that, guide. So I felt myself kind of veering off into the unknown of, like, what am I doing? You go to class, you do that, you go through the motions, but I really wanted to kind of take a step back. So I reached out to my resources, my mentors across the board from different organizations that have helped me get here, and kind of decided to take this time off, and it's been great. So.
Well, I think it's great you did that, and I am a big believer in taking time off, whether you take a gap year before you start college, or you take a gap semester a year during college, or people go into the service for a couple of years. There are so many ways to do that, and sometimes as wonderful as things like the dual enrollment programs are to get people used to college, sometimes you just think, can there be a way to slow some things down so people can really get to know who they are?
Right. And I have a question for you, because it was something in my college experience that was unheard of, was a gap year. Is it looked upon favorably now?
Oh, very favorably by employers. I think, I don't know how many students know to do this. That's why I think you were very wise to do it. I don't know how common it is among your peer group.
I feel like it's getting really common. I know for sure that one of the millennials that our generation looks up to, President Obama's daughter actually got accepted into the Harvard University, and she decided to take a year off before going. So it's something that's in media, it's something that's, broadcast, and it's something that is, I think, favorably looked upon.
And other countries, I think, have done it regularly.
Do it all the time. The 13th year in New Zealand.
Yeah.
We will be back with more. We're talking with Carol Carter from GlobalMindED. Stay with us for more Connect and Collaborate. We will be right back. With us here on Connect and Collaborate. Today we are focusing on GlobalMindED with Carol Carter. And Carol, I'm really excited about this conversation we're having with a couple of your some college students that are experiencing internships right now, to get that work experience that's really going to matter when they go and hit the workforce.
Absolutely. And what's nice is that both of the students who are guests on our show today are first generation to college themselves, and a lot of our work at GlobalMindED focuses on resourcing and working with faculty and people along the pipeline to better serve and connect with first generation students so that they can have more doors open for them than they would otherwise. So it's been really great working with both of our guests today. So before we introduce Mayor Brisa, I want to ask El Shaddai one more question. So you have now had a number of different experiences since you started. And when you look at the next 6 weeks, what do you most want to build and gain? And how can you risk the most to develop your whole professional self?
That's a big question. I think, these past almost 2 months now with you guys, it's crazy how fast that's gone by, but it's been really beneficial in terms of just expanding my perspective of what's out there. I think oftentimes when you're in a classroom, when you're a student, you study the theories of it all, right? You study how it should be, the practicality of it, and then you don't really get the real world experience. And I think that the thing I'm most grateful for that I've gained with this internship is just getting real world experience, like talking to people who are professionals in their industries, who have insight, who have wisdom to share with me. So that's been really amazing. It gives you perspective outside of the classroom. But I think for the next 6 weeks, I'm really looking forward to just developing more of those relationships, more of those connections, so that when I come back to Colorado, whenever that may be, whether it's for the summers or even post-grad, I can, still call on those networks of people to, help me along my journey, because, they're not going to go anywhere. We were talking about that a little earlier, but these resources, these people, these amazing people who have such big hearts to help students, they're still going to be there, but the education matters. So finishing that out and then having these connections, I'm really looking forward to that journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those connections and that network are really valuable.
Yeah.
Well, they're valuable because they will open doors to other internships, other employment options, people who can be great mentors for you. And I think too, just think about if there are other skills like project management or learning coaching or, some of those other things that you can also quantify besides the network, because the network you have automatically as part of what we do.
Yeah.
But think about the skills that will help you grow the most, you, El Shaddai.
Yeah.
And then we can make sure that we address those things and that you're in those kinds of situations where like those abilities can grow more fully.
Yeah, definitely. I think my personal skills, interpersonal skills, public speaking.
Yeah.
Those things have definitely been helped. So
Wonderful.
yeah.
Good. Excellent. Well, thank you for that insight. And now we want to introduce Marisa, who is also from a California school, but in a transition and taking online classes and doing an internship while taking online classes. And tell us a little bit about where you were in school and what made you decide to switch gears to Metro State, which is one of our Global Minded collaborative partners.
Yes. So thank you so much. I'm honored to be on your show. And I am a student, junior at Cal State Fullerton. I started my college career in Golden West. Well, even a little bit more back. I started in Cypress College. Went into Golden West College, that is in Huntington Beach, because I liked the environment. I was really looking for an environment that would allow me to grow and would be different and was just overall just different. Yeah.
Right.
And then from there transferred out to the 4-year college of Cal State Fullerton, but then decided to move out here for multiple reasons. But one of them was that I found that Denver is a very creative city and it just values innovation in every angle, and it's just booming in so many angles. I just felt this is a great opportunity for me to just put myself in an environment where I don't know these skills, but I will for sure somehow, some way gain them just because there's learning experiences everywhere.
That's right. You can just soak them up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what kinds of specific skills and experiences have you been exposed to so far that is causing you to grow and stretch yourself as a professional?
Yeah, so there's a couple of skills, but I'm focusing a lot on EQ, like a lot of the soft skills. We learn a lot of the hard skills back in school, and it's that's important as well. But just building those professional skills that we don't get in school, and really being on, if it's on like seminars or networking or being in that environment, has helped me so much in learning just to refine these skills or learn ways I'm like, whoa, okay, I should communicate better in this way, or I could present myself better in this other way, and just learn to communicate with people and build relationships.
Yeah, and you and El Shaddai have been the last couple of days at the Colorado Nonprofit Association meeting, and what was that like? You were manning a booth for Global Minded, and you were making a bunch of contacts, and where did you feel that you grew the most from that experience?
Yeah, having gone to previous conferences and events with El Shaddai, I feel I had grown in feeling more confident in just talking. It was more of like, well, we've done this before.
Just approaching people?
Yeah, approaching people, not being closed off. Like a lot of body language is just be relaxed. Just be comfortable with it. It's like we're mirroring the other person, or we're just just be comfortable.
Yeah,
there's
just
nothing
be
to be intimidated by, but the more you put yourself in those different situations, the more it seems really natural.
Oh yeah.
And it can be intimidating for seniors in college if they haven't had that kind of exposure.
Definitely. Yeah, I could relate to that. Like the beginning of my college career, I wasn't involved in any school activity, no networking, and I started to see like, okay, if I box myself in that, I'm not going to grow. I need to put myself in events like the conference, the non-profit of influence conference, and find these opportunities. If they're not coming to me, I need to find them. No one's gonna come and like give them to me.
That's right. And I think the other thing that you find is when you're in these kinds of situations, you say to yourself, do I relate to these people? Would this be
Yes.
something I would be interested in being in the nonprofit world? And who would be interesting to let me know more about what their life is like and what's an ordinary day, an ordinary week. And those are
Yeah.
kinds of ways you can find out more about that as well.
Yeah, so learning to ask the right questions.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
We learned what those were,
Yeah.
just through our experiences, just really getting that one-on-one time with these people,
Yep.
these professionals in the industry. You learn how to conduct yourself, what questions to ask, what advice to ask for.
Yeah, 'cause
Yeah.
we didn't grow up, at least myself, I didn't grow up with that. My parents were like, you need to conduct yourself like this. It was just go to school.
Yeah.
We know you're going to go to school and graduate. But it's like there's a lot in between that.
Yeah,
More layers
a
in
lot
the
of
cake.
a lot of
Lines.
subtleties of things.
Right.
And actually, I think Claire hasn't asked you this yet, but we have an event next week that's down in New Mexico that you could go to. And El Shaddai went to an event up in the mountains, but we work with the Los Alamos National Labs, and they do a lot of programs for students that are going to potentially be their Los Alamos National Labs scholars. So we would be thrilled if you want to go with the team down there, which is next Thursday and a Friday. So
Yeah, I would
that
be,
could be
more
your
interested to know more
overnight-
about that.
Yeah, we'll give you more info. But it was great that El Shaddai got to go to an event with some people up in the mountains and just to see what's it like to have a business trip and
Right. Yeah, how to conduct yourself in that atmosphere, for
Right.
one thing, and then making more connections, seeing things happen in real life, too.
Firsthand. Yeah.
Firsthand. Thank you. That's a better word.
awesome. So what about for you? What are some other ways that if you were to say you can grow the most professionally and you can risk the most, make the most out of this opportunity in the next 6 or 7 weeks, what does that look like for you?
Okay, so like an action plan within the 6-7
Yeah.
weeks to come, for me would just be get more involved. Like try to see what more events, more people. The more we do it, the more better we get at, the more comfortable, the more natural it comes. So it just would be like
Exposure. Just
exposure.
Like, do it more. Yeah.
Perfect. That word sums it up.
I love that. I love it.
And beyond exposure, what have you learned about follow through? Because you can meet a bunch of people, and if there's no follow through, what have you learned so far from that?
That's very important.
keep track of your business cards.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Definitely keep track of all the business cards. Make sure that there's consistency and persistence. Like there's just follow up and figure it out. You want to get somewhere, just keep going.
Yeah, these people
Find
are
a
really
way.
busy, so they, you have
Yes.
to make sure that you get them at
Yeah.
good times. You stay on them because just because they're not replying doesn't mean they don't care. It just means they're busy. So you have to make
Yeah.
sure you have
Yeah.
a strong follow up.
And you might be at a conference, meet 30 people, prioritize these are the most important 4 people for me. And you can write them a thank you note and
Yeah.
or you might think of them to speak at our conference, or there may be other connections or reasons that you're introducing them to other people that you work with based on your judgment.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
That's great.
very important because you're building these relationships, these connections, and these networks. And if you let it drop off, that nothing
That's
will come
right.
from it.
That's right. Follow up is so much of how things
Right.
actually happen. I say it's like 98% of anything. So I think you guys have started to get a really good picture of that
Yeah.
in the last few weeks.
Carol, I'm wondering, how does that work for students this age? That if you make some connections with some of these networks, and as El Shaddai said, yeah, you can email them just because they don't respond. You don't want to bug them, but I'm also thinking if you can just like, hey, it was so great to meet you, and just give them updates every quarter or something.
Well, and some of the-
or what are they interested in?
So, a lot of times you actually vet that and find that out at the event, but you can send an overview afterwards and ask them what they might be most interested in. And these guys have helped me with a lot of my follow-up too.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Really great advice. Thank you so much. We're talking with GlobalMindED. Carol Carter is the founder and executive of GlobalMindED, and we've been able to hear from some of the interns and their experience. It's great. We'll be back with more. Stay with us here on Connect and Collaborate.
Hi, this is Carol Carter, and we're here with Connect and Collaborate for GlobalMindED. We are having a discussion today about workforce ready graduates, and we've heard from a couple of really outstanding student interns who are getting some wonderful experience this year, and also being able to look ahead and figure out how to know themselves better in the process of making really valuable connections. And that's a lot of the mission at GlobalMindED. We also are fortunate to work with somebody who started out volunteering with us and is now working with us in a freelance capacity from Tucson, but happens to be here with us this week. And this is Andy, who is a University of Arizona grad, and also you got your master's there, Andy. So tell us a little bit more about yourself and your path. And welcome to the show.
Well, thanks. It's great to be here. So I did my undergrad at the University of Arizona in art history and architectural history, and then continued on to do my master's degree in art history with a focus in the history of photography. And the reason for that was actually because I did an internship my senior year of undergrad at the Center for Creative Photography, where I had the chance to work sort of hands-on with the conservation staff there, and then it sort of segued into a part-time job working with the archival staff, and that's something that I actually continue to do even today. So it was one of those where I really didn't realize how valuable internships were as an undergraduate until sort of the last second, and that's really, if I had to say one thing that I really deeply regret about my time as an undergrad, it was that nobody told me sort of in the first 2 weeks or whatever that, oh, hey, by the way, there's something that's going to happen after you graduate, and you may want to consider getting some real experience that'll help you figure out where exactly you want to direct your efforts, in the next 3 years or so.
Definitely. And Andy, you're so not alone in that, because I think that the majority of undergrads don't still know to do that or how to do that. And I was fortunate I had 4 older brothers, and they made a real point of saying to me, make sure you intern after your sophomore year, after your junior year. Both of my internships, as I said earlier, weren't great fits for me, but it was really good for me to get a realistic sense of what those professions entailed and to say, my gosh, I'm not going to go down a path. I'm not going to go to law school because I consider myself a bad fit for a legal career.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think I got very lucky in that the sort of one internship that I did do was exactly what I wanted to be doing. Yeah. It was one of those where it really opened my eyes, and I said, oh, this is a career path that I really didn't know much about, the sort of museum world. Yeah. It was something that I was pretty clueless about up until that point. And then, in my last sort of year of undergrad, I thought, oh, this is actually what I want to be doing. Yeah. And so I was fortunate enough that our graduate program was quite strong and in museum studies as a focus area, and that is something that I was then able to go and pursue. Yeah. But again, it was one of those where I think if I had to give, as we were saying, the one piece of advice is really be actively pursuing those internship opportunities, because if you're not, it's fantastic to spend time in the classroom to learn how to write, to learn how to, speak and express yourself academically. Yeah. But really all of that is almost for naught unless you plan to, spend the rest of your career in academia.
Or get your PhD. But even then, I think that's a tough...
having gone through the process of applying for PhD programs, which I did last year, and just decided that I couldn't commit 6 years of my life to that. Yeah. Having gone through that process, even then, it's incredibly important to have that real world, those internships. Yep. Work in museums, work with, professional organizations within whatever field you're in.
Yeah, I think in the world we're in today, if every college president doesn't quickly get the message that college freshmen need to have a plan for at least 2 summers of internships or real work experience, whatever, that we're in a time where in the next 10 or 15 years, tons of jobs are going to go away to automation. And if we don't have people who are able to really know themselves, know how to create work, know how to figure those things out, and have a bridge between what they've learned and what they can do with what they've learned, I think it's going to be really tough for a lot of young people. and they won't have that ROI for their investment in education.
Absolutely. And I think that's why, especially what you're doing at Global Minded is so important, because it's really, I mean, the idea of connecting students with folks who are in the working world, who are in the industries that these students may not even know that they're that interested in. But
Right.
the idea that you can come together with somebody and have a conversation without the boundaries that we sort of perceive to exist there,
Right.
that is absolutely, super important.
Yeah. Well, and El Shaddai, you wanted to say a couple things about that as well.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of speak on, I think, the amazing experience that I've had with Global Minded. There's such a need for what we're doing, like in the grand scheme of education across the country. And I feel really proud to just be a part of an organization that's really attending to that need. As a student in college right now, I can speak personally on the vast amount of money that is coming out of someone's pocket to pay for my education. That coming from a majority of different sources, scholarships, and different grants that I've received. But bottom line is, at the university that I'm attending, USC has a tap of $75,000 a year.
Yeah,
You're
tons of
investing
resources.
so much money, and it's
Yep.
it's a $250,000 education that I'm receiving. But it's like, you want to make sure that you get out of that what you put into it. And I feel like if you don't have organizations like this really building those bridges and connecting students, then it's tough.
Yeah, it is. And I think that's why I always say it's not about where you go to college. It's about what you do while you're there. And these kinds of experiences that you forge that show you uniquely who you are and where you're going to add value to somebody in the world of work, really doing a great job.
Absolutely. And, I think once again, it's the idea that encouraging students to sort of step outside their comfort zones
Yep.
while they're still in school, because it's very easy, and I freely admit that this is something that I was absolutely guilty of. It's really easy to just get in the idea of, or into that attitude of, I'm just going to go to class, I'm going to absorb sort of the academic information. But, you do that day in and day out, then that's fine, but where does that land you 4 years later?
Right, it's too narrow.
Absolutely.
And I feel like that's what the world looked like in the 1970s. But if we're still doing that, we have real problems for graduates, and that's what we want to avoid.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly it's a far different environment now than it was 35 years ago. Or even, to be quite honest, it's a different environment than it was 10 years ago.
And then it will be in 10 years when they're predicting that 50% of the current jobs are going away. So we really have to have our eyes open, be able to really work well with colleges and young people to get these experiences, to think entrepreneurially, even if you're never going to start your own business, to be expansive and entrepreneurial in your thinking will allow you to add more value in whatever job you're going to be employed in.
Right.
So
Fantastic. Carol Carter is joining us from Global Minded. She's the founder and executive. And I think these conversations are so important to see, to lay it out, I think, for the students of what they need to, how they need to put themselves out there, what they need to get
it's not
some
a
experience
mystery.
in.
It's not a mystery.
Right.
It's like I always say, just tell freshmen what the real world expects and requires, and they'll follow suit.
Yeah, they'll do it, yes,
it.
but you need to tell them,
Right.
and somebody needs to identify it and tell them, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Don't keep it under a lampshade. Just make
Yeah.
it simple and direct.
Because sometimes it seems like it is supposed to be mysterious and nobody's going to tell you what you have to do.
Yeah. And we're gonna change that through Global Minded.
Exactly.
And we are gonna have Gail Dindiger, who's also a first-gen to college student,
Right.
successful business person, serial entrepreneur. He's gonna be up next, and he's gonna talk about what he looks for in interns and employees he hires.
Wonderful. We're glad to have you all here. Stay with us here on Connect and Collaborate, the voice of the Colorado Business Roundtable. We will be back with more right after this break. Today on Connect and Collaborate, we're so happy to have Carol Carter, founder and executive of Global Minded, here with us. And we've been talking about producing a workforce-ready graduates from school. hit the ground running, as they've always said, right?
Absolutely. And we just need to set the expectations so they actually know what those expectations are from
so they
the
can meet
employers.
them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So sometimes that's a mystery to freshmen.
Certainly.
So that's why we're here today, to explore how internships and experiences and ways in which students can risk and make connections and get mentors, can teach them about themselves, but can also allow them to be well suited for any career that they may decide they want to pursue.
Well, and I love how you have this resource of young people, interns that come through GlobalMindED, come through probably your partners and networks that we can talk to kind of get a feel for their experience and maybe how we can help them.
Totally. I mean, because we work with so many students, this is how we actually we identify all the holes we're trying to solve for right now, is because we work so closely with these students. So I'm just delighted that Mayor Brees is going to be at Metro State, where we're doing a GlobalMindED Collaborative, and then we're going to have El Shaddai over there with USC and hopefully UCLA, and get some GlobalMindED Collaborative set up there.
That's fantastic.
But we're also excited that we have Gail Dindiger here, who is a serial entrepreneur and has many interns, and has also made a very generous offer to the GlobalMindED Collaborative at Metro State for some paid internships for those students. And Gail, we're just curious, as somebody who's launched many, many businesses, and you're very humble about that, but I'm just going to put that out there because it's the truth. What do you look for in your interns? And then once you've worked with an intern, what do you look for in the people that you hire?
Well, I think the first thing we look for, and this is a good example right here, is professionalism.
Yeah.
Okay. And we're laughing because El Shaddai is wearing the costume that Gail walked in wearing.
That's right.
So he
That's
started
right.
with the professionalism.
That's right.
But it doesn't go on my headset. So.
That's right. So we say, number one,
looks
sense
good
of
on you,
humor.
though.
Sense of humor goes a long way, right?
Yeah.
You
What's
have
your
to work
second
with Gail
thing?
too.
What's your second thing, Gail?
I think pleasing personality. So I've had a chance to meet these young ladies already, and boy, it makes a big difference. And then I think people having a drive to succeed. Just fun to be around.
And beyond that, when it comes down to the type of work that they're doing and how they're doing it, what are the other kinds of things that go into those employees that you hire that get onto a promotion pathway?
Well, to have a good skill set.
Okay.
And a lot of times when people come in here, we might have to go in and train a little bit more beyond what they received in college.
Yep.
But it makes a big difference if they have that basic training.
Right.
Well, if they can learn, like Andy, who was just here, super smart guy, he can learn anything. So if you have people who have a wide range of learning capabilities, it doesn't matter what you're teaching them, they're going to pick it up.
Right.
Kind of that
So-
trainable, coachable personality.
Yeah, and I would say, as much as people sometimes might pan liberal arts, I think a lot of people in liberal arts have that background to be able to learn and do almost anything. I
They
think
do
it's
know how
really
to
good.
think.
Yeah.
It's just hard making that transition sometimes, so that's where you come into place, right?
Yep. Absolutely. That we are there to help you hone those skills, build that bridge, and have the role models and the mentors and the experiences that you need to really be able to understand yourself and how to capitalize on the things that your passions and your interests direct you towards.
Can I ask an offbeat question?
Sure.
How long does it take you to do your hair like that? It's magnificent.
Gail. Okay, Gail.
She doesn't have a microphone, so we're going to have to slide past the question.
Well, you just tell me.
I was maybe like 45 minutes,
Is that all? How do you do that?
an hour. Just
Gail.
twist it.
That Gail, he
Is
said
that
offbeat
really?
question.
Is that PC? Let's just ask our listeners. Is that PC? I don't know if you.
You can.
Gail.
Well, you're asking, what do we like about people, and I think I like people that are stylish too. So you have a
he
couple-
does.
you have
I
a
can
couple
vouch
very
for that.
stylish people in here today, and I'm just trying to learn something. So
Okay.
education is not just what you learn in books.
That's right.
It's what you learn from talking to other people, and it's
It's resourcefulness.
Right.
It's being curious. It's being open-minded. It's being global-minded. Now, Gail, I want you to tell us a little bit. This is something else you're understated about. You've traveled all over the world. You've worked with leaders from all over the world. What would you say to Andy, Marbrisa, and El Shaddai about the wisdom that you've had from having these global businesses and meeting world leaders all over the world?
Wow, that's a lot. I think that they're on the right track. I think they've made sacrifice. They have moved from their homes. They're out to see the world. They're trying new things. They're probably getting their nose bloodied from time to time. And
happens. Yeah, it happens. And you have to you kind of grow a thick skin.
And I think the other thing, most people when they go to college do not have any kind of an idea of what they want to do. So they end up changing majors 2 or 3 times. And it seems like most people, when they finally find a career, it's going to be one job or maybe one teacher or one inspirational person that will make all the difference for them to get on their career, because they just don't know.
Right. Absolutely. And this is where, in the community of all the people in Global Minded, there are so many role models and mentors for students who are first generation of college. And what I will also say is, in addition to the Global Minded collaboratives we have we've got pilots at these 6 different campuses. We have a bold goal that by 2025, we want to have 25 million first gen students, first gen graduates, those who work with them, and those who want to hire them, algorithmically connected for role models, mentors, internships, and jobs. So think
fantastic.
about eHarmony for first generation, but not on romance, on careers and internships. And so that if you grew up on a small farm in Iowa and you are interested in somebody else who also grew up on a farm in remote area of New Jersey, and you're in electrical engineering, that you could match on 2 or 3 different things. If you're a Latina from Las Cruces, New Mexico, you're going into computer science, you might be matched with someone like Patty Lopez from Intel. So these are the kinds of things, like, no one school can provide all those connections. So what we know about networks, and the networks are so critical right now for job and employment success, is that students, especially first-gen students, have to have networks beyond what their school can provide. And that's what we are doing with Global Minded.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. So 25 million?
Yep. 25 million. You might ask, how are we going to get to that number? Well, we just
you
met.
might just tell me.
I might just tell you. Absolutely. Gosh, who's interviewing who here? Okay, so we have certain partners, for example.
It's hard to behave.
It is hard, so I'm just
For
gonna,
some people more than others, yes.
That's right.
Yeah.
So there are some national partners. One of them is AARP, American Association of Retired People. They have 40 million members.
Oh, wow.
So we just met with them in Washington, D.C. week before last. And they have never gone out to their community to find out who's first generation to college. But you know what? Probably 10 million out of the 40 million are first gen. Probably more is my guess.
For
That's
that
a-
generation, sure.
That's a pretty good idea. I like that.
That's
Well,
wonderful.
I think that's
thank
just-
you. We're
Yeah, I'm not here to give you a hard time all the time.
just sometimes.
Right.
So anyway, and then we have some partners that are also national, that work nationally with first gen people, and they've got alums of around 5 million. So the other thing we want to do is go out to every college campus and get the college president to figure out who of their faculty are first gen, create a simple website. So El Shaddai goes to USC. The summer before she starts school, she can see all of the few hundred faculty at USC who are first gen. So even if they're not her professors, she knows they're there, and there's a welcome reception, or there's a coffee or something where they
Right.
can meet each other, because this costs nothing for the university. But we are aggregating then those people for the 25 million. When the colleges figure out who's on their faculty, then we want them to move to their alumni base. So this is how we're culling for people who otherwise remain hidden. And we want to make sure that these resources are really well known and that people can galvanize these opportunities through these crucial networks.
I think your thinking gets bigger all the time. Is there like vitamins or drinking till 3 o'clock in the morning? What?
Gail!
No, this is awesome.
Funny.
No, I think that, we've known each other for a long time, and I've seen a real curve, a hockey stick type curve in the programs and in the thought process.
And there's a hockey stick.
And there's a
Well,
hockey
Gail,
stick.
it is a pleasure, and thank you for Cobert for letting us be guests today.
We're so glad to have you, Carol Carter from GlobalMindED, and thanks, Gail Zeniger, for chiming in today.
Sure, you can apologize for me.
Okay, we'll see that off air.